podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello everybody and welcome to the latest edition of It's Only a Game podcast. My name's Greg, I'm a Rochdale supporter for my sins. I'm joined as ever with Dec, Tranmere fan. How are you, Dec? You okay?
Evening, Greg. Not too bad, mate. Not too bad on the back of 2 wins. So flying high in League 2. A starry height of about 11th place. Not too bad, mate.
Superb. We're also joined by 2 special guests. 2 Man United fans. We've got Adam Malone, one of my friends from back home. That almost rhymes, that doesn't it? How are you, Adam? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much for inviting me on. I enjoyed the first time that I was on the show, so it's nice to be back on again.
Yes, we'll be giving you the hat-trick ball next if you were on for the third time. We've also got Simon Mahon, from one of my mates from the uni days when I used to go to Huddersfield Uni. Also a Man United fan. How are you, Simon? You okay?
I'm excellent. Yeah, I'm delighted to be here first time. I went on my honeymoon last month, but I'm happy to say that being on this podcast with you guys on a Wednesday night is my highlight of 2023.
Oh, hey, look at that. Look at that. Not many people have said I'm in their highlight for 2023, but you know.
Well, I figured, straight away I'd just get in with a lie, and then, you know the sort of sincerity I'll bring to the rest of the programme.
There we go.
You sound like you're going to fit in just well, Simon. Just well, mate.
Jimmy and Dec. Jimmy and Matt can't make it this afternoon, unfortunately. Matt's a little bit busy, and Jimmy is in Las Vegas, of all places, with his missus. I think they're doing some sort of run. Is that right, Dec? Some sort of running around.
I thought he'd gone over there selling himself. Is it not? Is that not his? No. I saw Jimmy in Vegas for 5k, but maybe he was running 5k rather than selling himself. But I don't know.
Okay.
He might come back with a missing kidney. I'm not sure what his intentions are, but he's he's doing all right, I think.
Yeah, I went to Las Vegas on my honeymoon. That's where I went.
Oh, blimey! There's a theme. And Jimmy went to Huddersfield Uni. Wow. There you go. It's all linking together.
The classic Huddersfield Vegas combo.
There you go. It sounds like...
Sounds like a burger, that, doesn't it, in a dodgy kebab house?
Oh, dear.
One of the most sordid, deceitful, but at the same time, glamorous places on the planet, and Las Vegas.
There you go. That's the one. So, I think we're going to start. It was is it the Carabao Cup? It's called the Carabao Cup. I still call it League Cup final. But it was the League Cup final over the weekend, and Manchester United beat Newcastle somewhat convincingly, maybe you could say. There wasn't much of a fight from Newcastle, in my opinion. We're going to go to Adam and Simon for their take on the final. How do you think they played, lads? Do you think that was... Is it a good performance? Is it a good... Obviously, it's a good result because you've won. What's your take on the final, all in all?
I'll let you go first, Simon.
Oh, look, I was delighted. I mean, it's just good to be winning stuff again. I watched it in a pub, so, it's not always easy to sort of fully follow the game, because it's sort of... Well, I mean, the atmosphere was amazing. There was obviously a time when, quite frankly, we were kind of above the Carling Cup. I mean, above the League Cup even. Like, and this sort of image... I remember one year we won it, and like Roy Keane sort of lifts it up with such contempt almost. And you were back in... It was almost like a glorified training session for them. But, it's been a while since we've won anything. It was good to be at Wembley. It was good to be winning stuff. And I kind of, in a way, because it was so long since we've won anything, I kind of enjoyed that the final itself was a bit dull. United just went in front quite early on, went 2-0 up in the second half, and looked pretty comfortable. And I was able to just enjoy it and relax into the day. Strangely, sort of pre-match, Eric Ten Hag, who had gone for dinner or something with Ferguson in the week, and then suddenly he comes out with this sort of spiky comment about how boring Newcastle are and how boring they are to play against and stuff. But actually, I think weirdly we did that to them once we went 2-0 up. We sort of killed the game off a bit and nullified it. And I was just able to enjoy it. Now, but there was one downside of the day. at one point, someone it was quite crowded in this pub, and someone sort of backed into me. So I ended up with lager down my shirt, which is all. And obviously, then from then on, you sort of smell. You're conscious of the fact that if you go anywhere else, you'll smell, and they'll think that's because I couldn't handle my drink, but it was the guy that was swaying in front of me. Other than that, great day.
Cup final chaos. Cup final chaos. I once had a pint of dinner spilt over a brand new pair of gazelles when we played Watford away before the game had even kicked off. Fuming I was.
Brutal.
Yeah, not good. Yeah, they were like a very light grey as well. They're not anymore. But
you can't really be putting them in the washing machine, can you? I mean, they're a sort of. That is tough. The greatest physical feat I ever saw live actually was in a pub next to Griffin Park, the old Brentford Stadium, one of the 4 pubs. And a guy walked past me in his palm of his left hand, rammed pub after a match. He had 3 Guinnesses in the palm of his hand, and he sort of just wafted it as he walked round. Didn't spill a drop.
Wasn't David Seaman, was he? Shovel hand, no?
I would have recognised that ponytail.
yeah. And his accent as well, probably. But what's your take, Adam, on the overall, on the final?
I'll just say first, when Simon said Carling Cup, that's what I still call it sometimes. Yeah. I don't know why, but I think it just has more of a ring to it as well. But no, I enjoyed it. It wasn't the best final ever, but I feel like it was, even though Newcastle were attacking us in the second half, it didn't seem like, I might be wrong, I've not looked at the stats or anything, but it just seemed like they didn't really get a lot of shots on goal, or we were just blocking them. I think De Gea made a couple of saves, but I never felt on edge, as silly as it might sound. I was just watching it at home, and I felt pretty relaxed as I was watching it, which was nice. And yeah, I did actually really want to win as well, because I think it has been nearly 6 years or 6 seasons that we haven't won a trophy, and it was just nice to finally get over the line, because I know there's a couple. Well, I think the last final was maybe the Europa League. I can't remember what year it was, but Solskjaer was the manager, and we had to watch that penalty shootout that just went on forever. And in the end, we lost because De Gea missed his penalty. And I'm sure there was maybe something else where we came close as well. But yeah, I was really happy in the end. I thought the team played well. And I think what it was, more than anything, is we just looked very mature. We had the players out there that knew what they were doing, like Casemiro, Varane, Martinez. Yeah, it just seemed like...
we had a lot of players who just looked at pretty much thought, like they played in a lot of big finals.
Yeah,
they weren't going to be overawed by the experience. Multiple Champions Leagues. And when I was looking at that Newcastle team, I think there was a lot of people that hadn't really won anything in their career. I think big final experience counts for a lot.
Yeah,
there was a stat on that Casemiro. I mean, Greg will know this. I'm not a top league football pundit by any stretch of the imagination. So when I watch two...
Neither's Martin Keown, but he makes a career.
Watching Match of the Day is kind of an education to me some weeks. It's I do find it hard to keep track on who's where. But Casemiro, there was a stat on there, I think it was something like that was his 12th major final, or classed as a major final, of which he'd won 10 of them up until that day or something. And as you're saying, I think that kind of big game experience and that kind of been there, done that mentality really does stand teams in good stead. I think that's what, not to take anything away from United, but as you say, I think that's what Newcastle were missing. I think they're one or two out-and-out strikers away from being a bit of a force to be reckoned with in another season or so. And obviously the money that's involved there, I think that's only a matter of time before that happens. But United, for me, looked, as you say, very comfortable. Saw the game off fairly early doors. Could the Newcastle keeper have done a little bit better with the goals? Possibly. But, two good finishes and they kind of shut up shop, didn't they? I mean, Newcastle have just having a little look. We've got a history, haven't we, Greg, of looking on FOTMob. Other football stat apps are available. Yes. But Newcastle's possession there, not that a game is won by stats, But Newcastle 61% possession, but United had only one less shot than them. The passes a little bit less accurate, a lot more fouls and so on. But they were more clinical on the day, and that's what wins you finals. You can be in control of a game without having the ball, can't you? And I think that's what United did, certainly second half. They allowed Newcastle a possession, but didn't allow them to do anything with it.
And sort of cynically, I sort of feel like it's inevitable, obviously, with all the money behind them, that Newcastle are going to get better and better and become the sort of side that does win things. And so just a bit of me thought it's good to just try and delay that for a bit of time. Just put off, like winning your first major thing winning your first trophy will always be a big moment for the club. And I think it'll always be a thing that hangs over until he wins something. And I always felt it with Manchester City, like, as long as we could hold them off winning the Premier League title, it'd always be a big thing. And then obviously, eventually it's going to happen and the floodgates will open. I think the same will happen with Newcastle. And, just sort of delaying them a little bit and sort of still making it, when you saw a Newcastle fan, and you can only imagine what it must have been like to live in Newcastle the week before the final. It's a one-club city. Everyone in the city, if you play for Newcastle, you nip to Asda. You probably don't go to Asda, but you get my point. Like, every time you bump into someone, it's going to be that the whole city must have been on edge. I think that's what it'll be like until they win something. I mean, I did think the subs they brought on were, the sort of the players that from the sort of Mike Ashley era, weren't they? I can't remember. They bring on Jacob Murphy, and you think, well, and that's where they're still lacking a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's. I think you were saying there before, Sam, you kind of alluded to it, that the as someone we make to call it, the Milk Cup, as it in the 80s or whenever it was sponsored by them. That would have been kind of the perfect gateway for them, or a little kind of segue for them to be, take that hindrance of a cup final and whatever away. But as you say, I think it's only a matter of time. But having said that, the money that Liverpool have been promised today for the transfer window, they've been told they'll have an obscene amount of money for next year. City are going to continue to spend. Obviously, we can go on to it in a couple of minutes, but the suspected takeover at United, Spurs and that spending money, it's they're going to have to really spend big to be able to overtake those kind of your traditional kind of top 4 or 5 sides, aren't they? Which is going to be a big ask. I think eventually they will. They're a big enough club. The fan base is there. Obviously, fantastic history and stuff at the club. And to be fair, they're a fairly genuine top side. The fan base seems quite good. You don't really hear of a lot of trouble or anything with them. They're well backed, they're well followed. Just passionate football fans. A real traditional top flight English club, really. So it'd be nice from my perspective anyway to see them do well. But obviously for the pair of you were glad that wasn't last weekend.
I've just got a quick question actually to everybody really. Obviously I was listening to Gary Neville after the match, and he's talking about how Ten Hag has made some of these big decisions in terms of the Ronaldo situation, dropping Maguire, different things with Rashford. Rashford's not necessarily a problem or anything. I think it's just managing these big names. I think. How do you think he's got it right on so many? You could say like multiple levels, really, because Ronaldo, that's quite a big issue. Maguire, not quite. How can I say this? He's not. He couldn't. I mean, I wouldn't say he was the best defender in the league type of situation, so he has dropped him. Rashford, did he bench him and then he's put him back on again and things like that?
Well, he benched him when he turned up late for training, I think, and then he was on the bench. I think he was a game against Wolves.
That's the one. How do you think he's managed to sort of manage all these problems at once? Is there anything in that, do you think, or is it just because he's a bit of a cool character? Or
I think he has a winning mentality. He's not compromised on certain things. And he's sort of set a standard, and he's treated people, in a way that the idea of United just scrambling around to try and get in the top 4 isn't acceptable anymore. And I think that has sort of ran through the club. Also, I think he's just dealt with issues individually really well, and he's had the courage of his convictions as well. Obviously the players he's got out of the club in someone like Ronaldo, But also, like, he really put his neck on the line with like Martinez and Anthony. You know, when United signed Martinez, everyone was saying he's not big enough to be a centre half in the Premier League. All right, maybe he got away with it in Holland, but you know he's going to be found out here. But you know, it was Eric Ten Hag, and Eric Ten Hag could have been swayed by that and gone, oh, maybe what I've done in the past hasn't worked. But he stuck with him, he believed in him, and even when we were losing those games against, you know, I think it was Brentford and Brighton at the start of the season, he stuck with him in some ways, but also he sort of adapted the way we played. He understood you can't just play out from the back with David De Gea. I think he sort of picked the right battles to take people on with. The way he dealt with the Ronaldo situation was, you know, perfect in many ways, and eventually waited for Ronaldo to make himself the. You know, I think if Ten Hag had sort of taken Ronaldo on publicly at the start, I think that would have been a difficult situation for him. But he sort of just kept treating Ronaldo slightly badly, maybe not playing him, to the point where Ronaldo then self-combusted, and everyone was like, well, yeah, Ronaldo has to leave.
Oh, I think you've gone there, Simon.
I just came to the end of my I just ran out of thought.
Oh, sorry. I thought your audio had gone.
Basically, I woke up at 3:30 this morning because I worked in early.
Yeah.
So I'm always worried that I'm slightly delirious and tired, and I thought, oh, maybe I'm talking too much. I'll let somebody else have a go.
No. This is a podcast. No, don't
if
you worry
you're
about
delirious
that.
and tired, you're in the right place.
In the right shop.
Absolutely.
That should have been the podcast, tired and delirious. But yeah. What are your thoughts, Adam? What do you think? Do you think is any sort of link between how he's getting all these little problems right at the same time, or?
I think
anything?
It's more along the line. I don't think it's just a coincidence. I remember seeing it was like a little mini documentary that Sky Sports did before his first sort of. He was already at United, but I think before his first Premier League game, it was shown like a little documentary of like where he'd come from, the jobs he'd had in the past, and how he'd done with those teams. And everywhere he's been, he's overachieved. He's done brilliant things for the club. You know, he nearly got Ajax to a Champions League final, and it was only because Tottenham, I suppose, got a bit of a wonder goal at the end in the last second to go through that stopped them. But I think it's more just that he puts the work in every day, and that's what he wants from his players. So, it's probably just standards. Like, look, I'm doing this. Like after the 4-0 Brentford game, he got them all back in training the next day, and I can't remember exactly, but I think for the amount of sprints or the distance travelled that Brentford ran more than Manchester United, he made them run that distance, but he ran with them. And I just think it's more putting the standards in place and just normal things. Another thing that he's put in is that they all want everyone to have dinner together at the training ground, just so they eat together, they train together, they get to know each other a bit more, and they just work hard. Like, I've seen a few videos of him shouting on the training ground when someone doesn't pass with the right foot and things like that. So it's just attention to detail and standards, and I think he's done so well. I was really chuffed when I found out he was going to become our manager, because I think we were linked with a few people like Brendan Rodgers, and I'm sure there was someone else that...
Well, I was a Poch guy this time last year.
Oh, really? Yeah, Pochettino, he was the other main man, wasn't he? And I remember I did want Ten Hag. I didn't know a lot about him, to be fair, but I thought, from what I've seen with Ajax, which wasn't a lot, but he seems like he's a very good manager, and he seemed like he was the next sort of, you know, like you'd hear the hype about Jurgen Klopp like 10 years ago before he went to Liverpool and did really well with Borussia Dortmund. He seemed like he was the next sort of in that category of this guy could be a world-class manager. So, yeah, it just seemed like the right step forward to get him, and he's been flawless. Everything he's done. I think, I can't really say enough about him. I'm just really glad that he's the manager, and a lot of
it's really impressive the way he's like improved players that are there as well. I think that's what we've really not seen in the last few years. players kind of came in and they're at whatever level they were at. And I loved Ollie, but players didn't improve in the way that we are seeing. Wan-Bissaka is like, Wan-Bissaka looked like his career was over. You're thinking maybe he'll go back to Palace, but zero chance of him ever getting a shot at another big club yet again. But all of a sudden he looks brilliant, and Luke Shaw's having an incredible season. The way that he called Garnacho out at the start of the season and was like, he's not really putting the work in, and he's clearly decided that's the best way to approach it with him. Whereas equally, he sort of took Jadon Sancho out of the limelight a bit, sent him off to Holland. He sort of individually improved players. This time last year, there was United fans calling for United to sell Rashford.
Yeah.
They've all gone quiet now, but and it seems mad the idea we would ever consider getting rid of Rashford. But under Ten Hag's been able to sort of work individually with each player and improve them all.
And you could say it's very rare that managers can do that, really. Because I was trying to think of a situation where, like Pep Guardiola, Klopp, whoever, I don't think they've had to have problems like this. Where they've got a megastar like Ronaldo who's kicking up a fuss. The captain's not quite the best defender in the or what have you. Yes, they've got their own little problems, but I don't think they're anything on this scale, really. And I couldn't think of anything similar, really. So he has done well to be able to, because like Gary Neville obviously talking about after the game, and he's like, he's done well. It's a bit ballsy, basically, doing what he were doing, really, with Ronaldo and things like that. And you think, crikey, he's had to, really. I mean, what was the other lad? The Ralph Rangnick, is he called? The one before?
Yeah.
That wasn't quite. It was all. It was here, there, and no. You didn't really know what was happening, did they? Really, because he was going, he wasn't going. He's here for 6 months. Did they give him transfer money? Did they not? And it was a little bit. There was a lot of question marks. Really, there was more questions than anything being answered. Really, with him, I think. But this fella's obviously come into the job, and he's sort of sorted it out so far. Anyway, do you think they could possibly challenge for the title next year? Do you think they could? Obviously, might need a few more players, or do you think that might be possible, Adam and Simon?
I'm going to say yes. I do. I do think we will challenge. I can't see us going backwards. I don't know. To be fair, I don't really know. I don't really know where we'd strengthen at the moment. Obviously, we probably need to strengthen in quite a few places, but the way he's just made the players improve, and like especially just during matches as well, where he just brings on the right substitutions. And you just have trust in him, like knowing that he knows what he's doing. So
yeah.
I think the board they'll take that on board, or they should do. And I suppose they'll give him as much money. It depends with all the takeover stuff, I suppose. But I think if nothing's going to happen in the summer with any takeovers, and they do have the money available, they'll just give it him and say, yeah, go do what you want with it. And they should do that because he's deserved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fully on the hype train, to be honest. Yeah, I think weirdly, given how sort of disastrous the last 10 years has felt, we've had a few kind of false dawns within it. We finished second under Jose, we finished second under Ollie, but like both those times, it felt very fragile. It felt like it was about to fall apart. It doesn't feel like that now. It really feels like we are going in the right direction. I think we'll sign a striker in the summer. I think signing a striker will be the big United transfer, whoever the owners are at that stage. Wout Weghorst, for all the running he does, doesn't look like he's ever going to score another goal again. But I think we'll have to do something with the goalkeeper situation. My instinct is that David De Gea will sign a new contract, but as it stands, his contract runs out. But yeah, I mean, it all just sort of feels sort of positive at the moment. And yeah, and it feels like Ten Hag's got a plan, and it feels like the players are fully bought into that plan. And yeah, I think definite title challenge next year. And yeah, still a bit of me just still believes that at some point Arsenal will fall apart, and maybe we could do it this year. But I am, as I said, very tired.
It's funny you should talk about Arsenal. Me, Dec, Matt, and Jimmy might have been the podcast before last. We were talking about Arsenal. If they can keep going, will it fall apart? I think we did, didn't we? We were talking about Man City know how to win the league. They've done it before from behind. It's an interesting question because obviously when we were a little bit younger at Arsenal, it was Arsenal that were near the title every other season or whatever, Henry, Bergkamp, players like that. Do you think, obviously as Man United fans, do you think Arsenal could win it or do you think they could crumble? You look at City are behind, well, they're thereabouts, aren't they still? They know how to win the league, don't they? They've done it before. Can Arsenal keep it up, do you think?
I think Arsenal will win it.
Do you think so? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I just... Because City seem to be just dropping silly points for some reason. And I feel like Arteta, he'll just drill it home to his side. Like, it's probably the best chance. If I don't know when the last time they were challenging for a Premier League, it might have been when Leicester won it. So it's been a while. So this is the best chance they've had for a very, very long time. And especially, I think what might help them, is that because of how well City have done over the last 5-6 years and the high standards that they've had, they know that they can't let the standards slip, because otherwise, if they do, City will catch up. But as well, I thought they were going to lose to Aston Villa. Well, when it was half time at Aston Villa, I think they were winning 2-1. But then Arsenal pulled it back. They got the equaliser, but then they scored 2 goals in like injury time to beat them. And I don't think you do things like that by fluke. I think they're going to do it.
What do you reckon, Simon?
I've always felt that sort of Arsenal's belief they can win the title is pretty fragile, and that at some point it'll fall apart. I thought it kind of was. I agree that I think that comeback to win at Villa was huge. I think that they had a few bad results, and I think it was a time when you started to think, oh, maybe this is where it all goes wrong. And suddenly, City got right up close to them, and then they managed to pull that victory out of the bag. And I think they play City pretty soon, don't they? That'll feel like a big game. And I still just think, it's a very thin squad, like a few bad injuries in key areas, and I think they could be in trouble. Deep down, I think Manchester City will end up winning the title. I think they'll be able to sort of go on a bit of a run towards the end and start grinding out results. And then they've got all that squad depth, and I think that could prove crucial. We're still in this sort of weird bit of the season where, because of the World Cup, there's still so many games to cram in between now and the end of the season. You're going to end up playing, Saturday, Wednesday. And I think City have got the squad depth to do that. And I just think Arsenal might come up short. What do you two think?
Yeah,
what do you reckon, Dec?
I think I said before on the episode when we discussed this, for me, as a kind of a football purist or someone who just enjoys obviously watching top flight, I've got no kind of links or anything to any of the big sides. Obviously when Liverpool won it a few years ago, for me that was quite nice in terms of that it was someone, obviously they've got a fantastic history of winning it, but in more recent years it kind of takes away from the whole United, City, Chelsea, etc. And I think Arsenal kind of fall into that bracket now. Was it 2003 or 4 when they last won it, the unbeaten season, in and around there, 2004. So looking at that now, you're coming on 19 years, so they kind of fall into that bracket for me, whereby for me it would be nice to see someone different win it. Obviously it's not a completely new side, it just switches it up. And I think when it comes to the summer and it comes to transfers and so on, you've got all of these big names being battered around. It gives them a little bit of food for thought as well. You can go to your proven Uniteds, Cities, and so on. But then it allows those teams to attract players based on merit as well as kind of the financial situation. Do I think they'll do it? I think, as Simon just said then about squad depth and so on, based on the starting 11, if they can stay fit, there's no reason why they won't. But obviously a couple of injuries here or there, Obviously City, their squad depth is unreal. They could drop a whole 11 players and still beat most sides in the Premier League comfortably. And they've got that experience of going and winning it, and they've got a lot of players within that squad. They've got that core of the squad that, regardless of the number of players that have been in and out, they've kind of kept that over recent years. So I know I've not really answered the question. I've sat on the fence there, haven't I? Again, I have a history of doing that, Adam and Simon. I think I should nickname myself the Splinter, because I end up pulling a few of them out myself by the end of the episodes. But yeah, I'm going to put my neck on the line and say Arsenal will win it just. But I think it'll come down to kind of the last 1 to 2 games. They won't pull away with it.
It's going to be interesting. I think I would like Arsenal to win it. I know it sounds a little bit daft, but it would just put another name. It would throw another name into the hat for the next few seasons, I think. So obviously, like Liverpool have won it somewhat recently, and City have, and then obviously historically you've got United and Chelsea in there. Then you got the random one, obviously Leicester winning it. But I think it would just be another name to throw in there for contention for going forward, and it just sort of freshens it up sometimes. And like obviously, me and Dec, we're League Two supporters, but we obviously keep an eye on the top divisions, top competitions, and things like that. But sometimes you need it to freshen up a little bit. I know, obviously, like United, you two will want to win the trophies and things like that. But I think sometimes as a neutral, you go, "Oh, that's different." Like Leicester winning the FA Cup, was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. I was like, yeah, I'll take that. That's a little bit different, and then.
And it is good just to have like a genuine title race, and for a few years now, we've had this sort of weird like City and Liverpool just like not dropping any points at all.
Yeah.
So you sort of know that, all right, City are 3 points clear. Well, they won't drop another point, so they'll and deep down it's just felt like, yeah, well, City are going to go on and win this, aren't they? Whereas now, like all the teams are dropping points, genuine title race it is exciting.
And I think it's also, we've only just got into March, but there's no real front runner. It's Arsenal and City. Obviously, United are doing quite well, unbeaten in so many games and things like that. But it's still very much a question mark on, is it Arsenal, is it City? Could United pull forward a little bit? But then if you look at it on the wider scale of the league, I don't think many people would have had Arsenal top in March. If you'd have said last season, Arsenal will be top by March, and you think, I'm not too sure about that. And then obviously you look at Spurs and Liverpool, especially Liverpool have fell away a little bit. Chelsea are on a bit of a weird spell where they're not particularly picking points up, and it's all the headlines seem to be Chelsea not doing this, not doing that. So it's been it's like everything's flipped a little bit, which is Liverpool going one way and Arsenal going the other. It is refreshing to see a little bit.
I think for me, the issue with Liverpool is they've kind of, as you've just said there, like City, they had the 2-3 years really where they were unplayable, and arguably in any other season without City being as strong as they've been, Liverpool would have won 3 back-to-back titles. They've not really replenished the squad. They've lost or sold seemingly quite happily at the time key players, and they've not really overly invested. Obviously, they've spent money, but in comparison to some of the other top flight clubs, they've not really they've kept that core of players. But you look at the likes of, Henderson, I like Henderson as a player. You look at Milner and so on, but then are they a little bit over-reliant on those players now, where every game they're kind of getting 50, 60 minutes?
Those players have kind of got old together, haven't they?
Yeah. They've had, as you say, it's an aging squad. They were fairly old when they were, starting that kind of unbeaten, 3 years. But I think it's catching up with them a little bit now. But I just having a little look at the league there. Talking about obviously how much of a different season it's been in comparison to previous seasons. You've got Newcastle there, who've got 2 games in hand. They're 4 points off 4th spot. Pressure's massively on Tottenham to not drop any points at all. And, you could see them going another year without Champions League, or, drop out of Champions League again. And if you look a little bit further down, Fulham have massively overachieved this season. They're sitting in 6th spot at the minute. Haven't played a couple of games more, granted. Brighton as well, 22 games. They've got 3 games in hand on Spurs. 10 points behind. I mean, God, imagine if they managed to pick up 3 wins there and really putting pressure on for Champions League. I mean, they're all if buts and maybes, but at the start of the season, if you're a betting man, there's no way you would have predicted what's gone on.
This is it.
At the moment, very real chance Brighton will finish ahead of Chelsea, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, Chelsea are 31 points, 4 points below them. Haven't played 2 games more. It's just. But as we were saying, it makes for an exciting season, doesn't it? You're not turning a match of the day on every Sunday morning or whatever and seeing. I mean, City are still steamrolling teams with goals galore and so on, but you've got teams up there. I mean, we've had a his name goes past me now.
Joe
from Albion Obsessed on, and you look at how their club is structured now, and the likes of Brentford as well. Brentford doing fantastic, and it's reassuring for the likes of me and Greg, whereby Brighton and Brentford were both in League One, League Two with us not that long ago. Arguably, smaller clubs to an extent when they've been at our level in terms of the dates and stuff that they're getting, and they're holding their own up there. They're not spending money that they've not got. They've got really good systems in place. And it's just refreshing to see, isn't it? A little bit of a change in the top flight. I'll shut up now and let someone else have a go.
Don't you worry. Adam, I'm going to come back to you, Adam. So Man United, going back to Man United slightly, he's still in quite a few competitions, I've noticed as well. Obviously, we've got the FA Cup game that's going on right now. I think it's 0-0. I'm going to have to check. Could be a Chris Kamara moment, and I don't know what's going on. Man United 0.
It's 0-0, but Anthony van den Boer has been sent off.
Has he? Right. Okay. Blimey. So, still in the FA Cup, Adam. Still in the Europa League. And still technically within, mathematically you could win the league, but we're not too, Which trophy do you want? If you could, any priority there? I mean, obviously the league is, but you'd take the FA Cup, wouldn't you, I think?
Well, of course I would. I'll take all of them, any of them. Yeah. I'm not so. Yeah, I suppose because it's just been a while since we've won trophies. I know we won the League Cup, but I do want us to just get back to that, I suppose, mentality of just we're in it to win it for everything. And the more we can win, the more experience the players are going to have to go on and win a Premier League and a Champions League. So, and Europa League's a hard competition. Like beating Barcelona, they're flying in the Spanish league at the moment. So yeah, that was a brilliant result for us. I'm not sure how Simon would have felt about it, but I don't think United fans, they were just happy to see the game. I don't know if I wasn't so bothered. Like if we won, I was like, oh yeah, great. But I didn't expect us to win until after the first game at the Nou Camp and we got the draw. I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, we can have them at Old Trafford. But before the game at the Nou Camp, I was just like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy this as if it's like a bit of an exhibition match, because we've always been. I don't think I've ever seen United win against Barcelona at the Nou Camp. They always usually just draw or lose. But yeah, I think we have a chance of probably not the Premier League now, unless City and Arsenal really slip up. But I think for any other competition, yeah, I think we're right in there.
Yeah, I agree. When we drew Barcelona, I was really excited, and just big European night against Barcelona. It sort of felt like the old days, even though sort of neither club are sort of where they were. I mean, I suppose, but I think Barca are actually top of the league at the moment. But both clubs sort of feel like they're rebuilding. But it was just exciting again to be in those sort of matches. And also I always think, and the arrogance of being a Manchester United fan is, I always sort of believe either we should try and win a competition, or you might as well get knocked out of it. And I sort of feel that about the Europa League. Either I want to win it, or you might as well get knocked out, and then you can have some time off and not play all the games. I'm not that arsed about just making it to the semi-finals. What a great run! I sort of want to play the best teams in the Europa League. Do you think, well, either we beat Barcelona and now you think, wow, we got a real chance of winning this, or you're knocked out and you don't have as much fixture congestion going forward? But I mean, in terms of if I could win any of them, for United to win the Premier League again, I would absolutely lose my head. I don't know. I don't know how I'd go.
Yeah.
Open top bus.
Not like Mike Bassett though, when it's
I'd go full Mike Bassett. Yeah.
4-4-2, Mike. 4-4-2.
Oh man, honestly, we quote Mike Bassett quite a lot on the pod. Well, once every month or something at least. But me and my dad quote Mike Bassett like
One of the great.
every other week. Every other week we must quote Mike Bassett.
I watched it ahead of every major tournament.
Oh yeah, it's such a good film. It's like what's the one we always quote? I think Matt quotes it. Matt, who's usually on with us, he quotes the he's got all the finishing of a Renault Espace or something like that. I can't
We're better than the Tunisians. That's one of my favourites.
Oh, I love that. Mexicans. We're better than the Mexicans.
When they lose that game, it's like, we've got any positive, lads? Yeah, well, the Mexicans were good, weren't they? Yeah.
Oh man, I'm trying to think the bit when what's the captain called?
And Tonka, what a player! That's who Newcastle are missing up front. Tonka,
yeah.
Is it that, or they're missing Mike Bassett? There's one where I forgot what the character's called, and he pulls over Mike Bassett in the changing room. He goes, "What's up?" And he goes, "How come I haven't got a nickname?"
Oh, yeah.
Such a good film. Oh, I need to watch that now. I can't believe it's like 20-year-old, isn't it? Something like that, roughly.
Yeah.
Or
So
more.
funny.
Something like that. Oh. So, we're going to talk a little bit to Dec about Tranmere Rovers for a few more minutes, and then we're going to have
I'll have to focus now. I was doodling some Mike Bassett quotes. Something along the lines of him naming 2 players in the England squad.
Is it the...
that Benson and Edges bit.
Yes, yeah, that's the one. Where do you see Benson Edges on here, love? So we're going to speak to Dec a little bit about Tranmere Rovers, and then we're going to finish.
I'll try and not
quiz.
get too down, boys. But yeah,
you're doing all right, aren't you? Well, better than us anyway. But I think everybody's better than us at the minute.
We're ticking along. I think it's a very, very difficult season to judge. Really, I think as you all know, I'm a big Mickey Mellon fan. Arguably our second most successful manager that we've ever had, and he came back obviously back in the last season, and I think we all kind of thought, right, he'd be really back this season. You know, we'll get the goal scorer in that we needed, and so on. There was then this complete change of kind of transfer policy at the club, where everything was all about youth, going very much down the kind of Brentford, Brighton, kind of that modern approach, which arguably is the way to go. But I think a club of our size, it's a big risk. Mickey and the board have talked about, you know, young players and the problem with that being inconsistency, and that is very much what we've seen this season. The issue for me is that you kind of sign, let's say every year they have a squad turnover of say 15, 16 players roughly, because that's ultimately, I mean, Greg, you'll know this, that's what happens. Yeah. You have a squad turnover of God only knows how many loanees in a season. You know, you're looking at the team sheet trying to figure out who people are some weeks. Granted, it's not been as bad as it has been in some previous seasons, but you look at this model that they've kind of brought in whereby they take a risk, say, on 10 players. Now, these aren't 10 squad players, these are 10 players almost that are starting every week. And you look at it and you think, okay, so out of those 10, let's say 2 of them make it in a season and they sell them on and make a little bit of profit. For those 8 that don't make it, they get shut of them. And then the following season, another 10 players come through. For me, and we go back to what we were saying there about some of these top teams, it's all about having that core and that kind of spine of experience and players that get the club. And we haven't really got that. We've got a few players, granted, who've been there for kind of maybe 5 years, possibly 6 years as would be our longest serving player now. Most, maybe 2 to 3 years would be the majority of the squad. And I don't know, I think that's maybe where we've kind of lost our way a little bit. The squad doesn't really have an identity. We've got some very, very talented individuals, but we're missing goal scorers massively. I mean, everyone at our level is, you know, on the hunt for, as we had over the couple of years in the conference, your James Norwoods, your Andy Cooks, your Paul Mullins and so on. Everyone's on the hunt for that player that maybe hasn't quite done it, and you're the club that helps them find their way. You're not going to get that every season. But when you've got I'll be very careful what I'm saying, but when you've got the chairman then turning around to the fans and saying, okay, well, in January, at the start of the season, we missed out on 7 strikers at, the last day of the transfer window. And they end up signing Joel Mumbongo, who I think has maybe 10 career appearances, and he's our Lord and Saviour. It's that kind of, and then January comes around, that's where we've needed to recruit, and then you hear then that 4 or 5 strikers have slipped through the net. I don't know. It's kind of the club's coming on leaps and bounds in terms of as a business and as being sustainable. There's not that worry of where's the next pay pack going to come from or anything like that. As a club, we're solid, and I think as a potential future investment for somebody, we're there. There's big talks of ground move and so on to kind of bring us on to that next level bit of being self-sustained championship, which we were for a few years. And I think a club of our size, there's no reason why we can't do that. But at the same time, they've got to start getting things right on the pitch. There's been big calls for Malone to go, and I can kind of see why. It's been 12 months of complete inconsistency. He'll go on a 5 or 6 game run where you think, God, we could beat Bayern Munich if we were put in front of them now, and then you'll struggle against, as we did last night, Crawley, who were second from bottom, and we couldn't get out of our own half for most of the game. It's just, I don't know, massively inconsistent, very kind of mundane football. But at the end of the day, I'll be there again on Saturday, and I'll enjoy moaning about it.
The trouble with strikers is, like, every January, every club's looking around thinking, yeah, we just need a goal scorer. And no club is going around going, we've got too many goal scorers. We need to get rid of some goal scorers. And, it's always an absolute... Now, a mate of mine's a big Mac Town fan. I used to go and watch them quite a bit when they're in National League. And what would happen all the time pre-season, it'd be like, we just need, like, a big lad up front who can hold it up. And it's like, well, yeah, but the trouble is, big lads who can hold it up aren't going to come and play for Mac. The big lads that can hold it up have sort of got a job in the Football League somewhere. And I think that's the trouble is the ideal player can go and play at a higher level than you're always going to sort of have to deal with slightly flawed players, whether that's you're taking a chance on them because they've just not been able to prove themselves somewhere, or they've proven not to be good enough at a higher level.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's very much, we kind of, how did the owner put it the other week? We shop in a very selective window, and I think realistically that's where we've got to accept that we are as a club at the minute. That's not being disrespectful to any other League 2 club, because we are very much a bog standard League 2 club at the minute. I think because we had those back-to-back promotions, we were in League 1, we were attracting players and so on, and that's now been taken away a little bit. We've got to accept where we are, and if you're a 20-25 goal a season kind of player, and the likes of Bradford come for you in our division, well, Bradford are going to be paying £6,000-7,000 a week. We could probably stretch to 2. Who are you going to go to? It's that kind of thing of, we are a big club for that level, but we're not the biggest. Yeah.
At that level, it's very hard to be a self-sustaining club, because you're coming up against clubs who are, happy to be run at a loss. The Salford and Stockport are happy to be run at a loss because they've got owners that are happy to put the money in and lose it.
Yeah,
so it makes
exactly that. Yeah, and it's to an extent, and this is where it'll be interesting. Sorry, Simon, did you say something then?
Oh, no.
Sorry, we talk quite a lot about, it's that kind of bitter rivalry for me, but the likes of Wrexham, right? If you're that kind of, as you're saying, $20-30 season player in the Football League, say League 1 or League 2, and Rovers come in with an offer of £2,500, maybe £3,000 for a quality striker a week, and Wrexham come in and wave £8,000 in your face, you're going to drop down a division. What will be interesting with the likes of Wrexham, and they're looking at increasing the number of teams that go down to allow more to come up. The FA want the likes of Wrexham back in the Football League, and I can understand it. It's an attractive proposition. They get more people through the turnstiles, sell tickets, bums on seats, revenue, and so on. I understand it. What will be interesting, though, is whether they then start to change the kind of financial fair play to allow the likes of that. So the likes of Wrexham now, they have a home capacity of 9,000. Rovers, if they're on a promotion push, will get that every single week. So it's that kind of, how are they going to allow those kind of wages and that kind of money to be spent? You look at the likes of Salford, they struggle to get 1,000 through the gate every week, but their revenue's coming in through, the Sky Sports Super 6 sponsors that the likes of Neville will be pulling from all of his friends. And it's that kind of rich man, rich toy kind of thing. And I think to an extent, if it's allowed to continue, it's going to start to spoil the lower leagues, the same as it has done to an extent with the Premier League, whereby, a player that 10 years ago was worth £10 million is now worth £250 million, but they're the same player. And the money's just going to keep going up and up and up, and it will get to a point. I know I've gone off topic a little bit with where Rovers are up to this season, but it will get to a point where more teams will go bust, or the money that's coming in just won't happen, and so many teams will just drop off into that kind of Conference and Conference North kind of level division. But anyway, going back to our season,
but the trouble is with those clubs is eventually the wealthy benefactor loses interest or loses money to the point where they can't keep on losing money. And then you have a Mac Town situation, you have a Derby situation, you have a Bury situation, and and then a community's lost its football club.
Yeah, and I think as much as obviously the lads that are involved, I don't know the ins and outs, but the likes of the board that runs Salford, obviously all ex-United players, they'll have a lot of money in the bank. But are they going to want to keep on, exactly as you're just saying there, Simon, are they going to keep on wanting to throw millions of pounds at a club that's making losses year on year? It's not going to... I think they've got Salford to the level that they can get them to, in all honesty. I think that's kind of their ceiling. Done a fantastic job. They've brought a community club from being on its knees and playing not far off on a park field. And, they've got them to, a respectable level. But I think, as you're saying, those kind of your rich owners who are just throwing money at things, that it's not sustainable, is it? And exactly as you say, clubs that have had that in the past, or where owners haven't spent responsibly, it's gone terribly wrong for them. And I think, as a back to my original point, although our season's not going particularly well, and I'll probably be called a happy clapper by a few of our fans if they're listening, that old comment of, at least we're not a Bury, or at least we're not. But you know what? At least we're not. We are going to be there for the next 50 years, 100 years, whatever. We're not, whilst Mark and Nicola are running the club, we're going to be all right. But at the same time, you're putting up with rather dull football. But there you go. The life of a Tranmere fan. Onwards and upwards. But looking at our we've got, I think it's the next 5 or 6 games. Obviously, we've won the last 2, just. But there's a real chance there to put a run of results together and start pushing back for those playoff places. And Malone's got a history of, whether he's got a good squad or not, if he gets in those playoffs, you've always got a chance. He's got a fantastic track record, and it's the hope that kills you, isn't it? But we've got, there's a run of games now. Greg is down on his knees praying that we do another favour for them on Saturday. That we managed to beat Hartlepool. We did you a big favour beating Crawley last night, and hopefully we can do the same against Hartlepool on Saturday. And regardless of what talent you've got and how experienced the squad is, if you're winning games of football, winning mentality breeds a winning mentality, doesn't it? So, if we can go on a bit of a run now's the time, coming into that Easter window, where if you put results together, there's always that team that's in and around mid-table that pushes, and they tend to be the team in the playoffs that does very well because the momentum's with them. So the hope that kills you. We'll come back in another 3 or 4 episodes, and I'll be enjoying another season of League 2 football. But for now, we hold on to that little glimmer of hope.
Just got a quick question whilst we're on the lower leagues. we briefly spoke about Wrexham there in terms of what they're spending and the sort of popularity of Wrexham with Ryan Reynolds and things like that. Bit of a question. Well, I'll pass it to Adam and then I'll pass it to Simon. So, say you're a professional footballer, Adam, and Wrexham, obviously non-league team, Wrexham, throw quite a lot of money at you to play in the non-leagues. Would you play in the non-leagues, or would you take a little bit less to be in the professional football, League 1, League 2?
It depends on the team, I suppose. Can you throw a random team at me, and I'll tell you which one I'll choose.
Doncaster.
I'd probably go with Wrexham.
There you go.
What,
Yeah.
Give up a chance to live in Doncaster.
Yeah, I mean, you can see where I'm coming from, can't you, Adam? In terms of it's money
it's
does
more
talk.
Hollywood as well. Yeah, there's more people talking about it, and like I have a friend in America who's like, because of the Wrexham. I've not watched it, but the Wrexham documentary. Yeah. He's watched that, and now he's watching all the games, and he's like he really sort of follows everything that they do now. So he chats to me a lot about Wrexham. So yeah, a lot of people are talking about them, and I suppose for the lower league clubs they are kind of like a villain because of how much money they have, but they are garnering attention from people that I suppose usually wouldn't really be too bothered about football because of Ryan Reynolds and the other people that are involved in it. And I suppose that if I was a football player, it seems like Wrexham are going places, so you'd want to be involved.
Yeah. So I'll pass it to Simon. Actually, there was one. Is an instance actually. So I think in January, Wrexham signed what's he called? O'Connell, who used to play for Rochdale. He was a centre back for Charlton.
Did he play for Rochdale, Greg?
He did. That's the theme in the podcast. That'll get that swings us nicely to the quiz question later. But
that would have been a cracking segue.
I missed out on that segue.
We'll go back to that in a few minutes. Anyway,
yes. So Wrexham signed O'Connell, one of our ex centre backs who played for Charlton. So he's gone Charlton League 1. So he's gone League 1. Yeah. He's gone down 2 divisions. What do you make of it all, Simon? In terms of the Wrexham bubble at the moment?
Oh, I don't begrudge the players going. They're professionals. They play for money. I'd go wherever the money. In my actual life, if someone offered me double the money to change jobs, I'd do it. And that's just the reality of life. You've got mortgages to pay. You've got families to support. Whatever. I don't begrudge anyone ever sort of doing whatever makes them the most money. I always think, if one of us got run over by a bus, by next Monday they would have had you replaced at work, or they'd have a cover person in, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah.
They can't be that angry if you take the better money offer. So yeah, these lads that have decided to go and take the Wrexham money, I don't begrudge them that at all.
It's interesting. Yeah. It's sorry, go on, Dec.
No, I was just agreeing. I think it's you'll know obviously Wrexham and Chester are probably 2 main rivals geographically anyway. More so with Wrexham with their kind of football league history, but pains me to say it in a way that yes, okay, they've thrown daft money at the club. Have they done it in the right way? Probably. They've gone out, they've got proven goal scorers. They've then got a mix of decent conference players and League 2 players. Is the squad sustainable? Yeah. If they go up, they probably hold their own. Would they challenge in League 2? Possibly not, but they'd be in and around there. I think I've lost my trail of original thought now. What were we saying? I've completely gone here. About taking the money. Of course, It all comes back to the money. You look at it and you think, right, these lads have a 15-year career if they're lucky. Money's money at the end of the day, and as well as any other sport, there's no loyalty in football. If money's there to be had, money's there to be had. And I think in the moment, a player leaves your team and goes and signs for them and whatever, and you see your backside. But if you look at it, at the end of the day, football's just a job, isn't it, to these lads and women as well. And yeah, the money's there. I mean, at the minute we're out striking for all sorts. I was on the picket line yesterday as a teacher. I come home and I'm reading the news article saying that Australia are happy to offer an 80% pay rise for British teachers and nurses to go over. Sign me up. Someone can come and rent my house. I'll go over there for 3 or 4 years. And that's no thingy against where I work. I absolutely love my place of work. But, if someone's nearly doubling your income to go and do the same job, absolutely.
But you started practicing your didgeridoo before you'd finished reading the advert, hadn't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'd down the ukulele and the guitar, and I'd got out the Australian instruments. We won't go too far into that one.
I'm happy
down under.
The reason I'm on this podcast is because Greg offered me $5,000.
There you go. See.
Where's the sponsorship money, John? Greg?
Oh,
where's the sponsorship money, John?
Mob, I've got a lot to say.
But I assume you'll get the same, Adam.
Slightly more, I think.
There you go. Not any longer. That might be it. I don't know.
I like the style, Greg. Play them off each other. I like it.
I don't know. It's like Harry Hill. Do you know when Harry Hill used to go, fight?
I tell you what, Jimmy better be winning some big bucks over in America to be paying for all of these guests. Jesus. No pressure, Jimmy. No pressure at all. Don't just be coming back with a 5k medal, mate. We need big money wins here. Big money wins.
We could probably sell all of his medals. He's got about 80, hasn't he, or something daft, I don't know.
Probably cash them in at the metal scrapyard. Get more than a car with all of them.
Oh. So, just got one more question for everybody, and then we'll crack on with the quiz to end the episode. Somehow we've already done an hour, which is time flies. So I've got a question. We've been talking about Wrexham and the lower leagues and things like that. So it's looking like Rochdale are heading to non-league. It's not looking great for us at the moment. So I've had a look in the non-league. Obviously, I've been keeping an eye on it for years and things like that. But I don't know if Dec does this, and Jimmy and Matt and a few of us. But you look at the names in the conference; it's ridiculous. Like obviously we spoke about Wrexham. You got Notts County are in there, Chesterfield, Southend, where else? Oldham Athletic, obviously, Halifax, York City, Torquay United, and Scunthorpe. And obviously there's more further down in the next division.
And Yeovil as well. Yeovil were in the Championship not that many years ago.
Yeah,
it's bizarre. A bit of an open question to everybody, but how is it that there are so many ex-EFL teams in the non-leagues in the last 15 years? It seems like they've just sort of all shunted down into a graveyard of ex-EFL. How do you think, is there anything in there, any patterns or anything, or how it might have happened? I'm not too sure.
Goes back to what we were just saying then, doesn't it? Partly poor management in terms of ownership and finances. You look at a lot of those sides, certainly in the conference, and to an extent, like your Conference North, your Chesters and so on, real financial impact. But then you also look at some of the teams that have come up, the likes of your Forest Greens, where they've been absolutely bankrolled over the years. And yet, granted, they've got to League One. Looks like they'll be back in League Two next year, and I for one would be quite happy about that. But it just goes back to that, doesn't it? It's where the money is. And I think you go back to the point we were just saying then about at our level, there's no loyalty. There's no loyalty at the top level, but I don't think the peaks and troughs of money are as different, between, say, the top six in the Prem and the top six in Spain, for instance. You'd be paying very similar wages. At our level, you go where the money is, and that's where teams will have a successful 2 or 3 years, or they might hit lucky with sides that they've got, but no one sustains that. You look at even you kind of more secure football league teams like your Peterboroughs, they'll throw money at it in League Two, smash the league, go up to League One, straight back down, or between Championship and League One, whatever. I think it just comes down to management, doesn't it? Management of football clubs, and it's a bit of a sorry state of affairs. If we hadn't have gone up when we went up, I think that would have been us. We would have been down there for 10 years plus. That had to happen that season. We were literally 45 minutes of football away from sacking half of the staff and all that kind of stuff. And within another year or two, we probably would have gone part time. It's a cracking division to go into in terms of to reset if you do it well, which I think we did in the end. And I think it did the club well as a whole. It took the pressure off, and you were away from that kind of negativity of getting battered 6-0 every week, and you were putting 4 or 5 past teams week in, week out. Granted, most of them were bricklayers, but it's a different league now. I'd say it's a much more difficult league to get out of than what it was, because of exactly what you're saying. There's so many big teams down there now.
Well, there's so many big teams down there, but also there's so many still like genuinely really small teams. So therefore, you just know that they're going to get pummeled. Like you can't really rely on an upset that much, because there are some sides you think, well, obviously Wrexham or County are going to turn over whoever. You find yourself, and I'm not sure who's in the conference at the moment, but like you will be bowling up at places like Boreham Wood, and you're like, this is just a pub team that's got out of hand.
There is absolutely that, Simon, and it's the two things that I found to be the most frustrating when we went down. So obviously at the time, Wrexham were kind of a MIG. They didn't have what they have now. You didn't have your Oldham stunt-ups, etc. One, and we moan about this at lower league level, but by God, the conference was a different standard. The level of officials was appalling, and that was week in, week out, to the point where you would batter aside and you'd be denied 3. Like the defenders pretty much jumped up and caught it with 2 hands. Blatant stuff, not where fans at home with rose tinted glasses to games, where officials were robbing you of points week in, week out. That was one real kind of frustration and something completely out of your hands. The second being, and it goes back to, you'll hopefully not, Greg, but may experience this next year. When you go down to that kind of level, if you look at Rovers, right, you've got a ground that holds, or had the potential at the time to hold, 16,500, right? That to most of the players in that division is their cup final. So they're coming to Prenton Park week in, week out, playing different mind games and dirty tactics and this, that and the other. You're trying to get yourself up for a game where you're going in thinking, right, we should put 4 past these. The likes of Dover, for instance. Now, they were bankrolled for a few years, but Dover, we'll just use those as an example. As a fan, you should be beating Dover 4 or 5-0 with the team that we had. Dover would come up, and for half of those players, that's the pinnacle of their career. They're walking out, coming through the tunnel with the phones out, taking videos and pictures of each other on the pitch and all of this. That's their highlight of their career, and they're coming out and they're playing like their life absolutely depends on it. 1, because they probably want to be picked up, and 2, they know, with all due respect, bar a few of them, that's probably as high that they're going to play. I'm trying to think who it was. It could have been Boreham Wood, and we got beat on a Tuesday night, 1-0, smash and grab, and I think they had 12 fans. I'm sure it was Boreham Wood. Wow. And it was like, that's when it hit that we were non-lead. It was like, we're not... You could have Messi playing for us, and nothing, is a God-given right. It's an interesting division, but some good memories. Hopefully, Greg, if you do go down, it'll be a quick visit, and you'll kind of gather a bit of momentum. But yeah, it's not all it's cracked up to be. It's definitely non-league.
Boreham Wood, by the way, sort of the bar bit is like the seediest. It's like this sort of been designed based on a strip club, and it's like black everywhere. You've got these black leather sofas. You're like, what on earth has gone on here? Like, I don't know what the inspiration was. Is quite clear when you go in.
There's like a theme there, isn't there? I think.
Yeah.
That's a great question. If you could base a football club on a theme of anything, don't know. What do you think there, Adam? What would you theme it on?
I don't know. I'm too. I have no idea, to be honest. Sorry.
No, right.
It's been a long day for me.
I know. We're nearly there, Adam. We're nearly at the end.
Honestly, though, Greg, some of the and lads as well, some of the drowns in that division. I'm trying to think who's still in there now. But Solihull Moors was just the most bizarre ground I've ever been to. Basically backs onto Birmingham International Airport. So you've got planes coming over that you look and you think, if someone clears that ball half decent, there's a chance they're going to hit the wing. Like, I've never seen anything like it.
Not the wing on the pitch as well.
Yeah, no, well, we couldn't hit that if we tried. And one of the funniest moments of the conference was actually at their ground. Thought the liner went to go and check the net before we kicked off, and the net had come off the crossbar. The groundsman was nowhere to be seen, so he spent about 5 minutes trying to find the stepladder, and we ended up with our centre-back on the goalkeeper's shoulders fixing the net. Trying to think who... McEvely, what's his name?
Not Lee McEvely.
Ex-Prem defender, played for Blackburn, was on Scott Davis's shoulders fixing the goal net, and I just thought, good God. Darsley away, that was literally like fans there with their dogs. I've never seen anything like it. Just like, but some, like, you look back now and you think, God, I hope it never happens to us again, but some bloody good memories. Like,
do you know what? It might be a good crack. It might just be a good crack. The way Simon sold it to me there is that there's a club that's like basically themed on a strip club.
Oh yeah.
And then the next week it's like bring your parents and dog week or something. You're like, I don't know.
And it's an opportunity to tick off some new grounds. Eastleigh was an interesting one. There was nothing there, and we ended up in a wine lodge. I mean, you can imagine, can't you? Coaches are lads from Birkenhead, and we rocked up at this wine lodge, and it was all like real posh farmers and their wives out for like Saturday afternoon lunch. And all these lads walked in.
Was a fresh winger, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I thought it was a new signing. I'm just looking along. Who else was there when we were down there? Halifax, that was a good away game.
Yeah, Halifax is a good away. Yeah.
Gateshead, you sit about 4 miles away from the pitch. That's an interesting one. National League North and South. Fylde, that good little setup at Fylde.
Yeah.
Obviously Chester, we know a lot about Chester. Kidderminster Harriers, best pies around. Superb.
Spoke about that the other week, didn't we?
Hereford, interesting. That's all I'll say.
I think that's what we'll do in the next episode, Dec. I'm going to give you
I'll talk you through all the shit grounds I've been to.
One-word answer. Just give me one-word answers next time.
Outstanding. I look forward to it.
Absolutely.
What's the worst pie you've had at a football ground?
Worst pie? Interesting.
Do you know what? I'm going to sink us here. It could be a Tranmere. To be fair, granted, the food's gotten better the last few years, I must say. Right, let me have a think. Greg, I'll hand it to you for a minute and I'll have a think.
I could go off best pie and then work my way down, but I think I'm going... Yeah, I don't know for worst pie. I'll try and eliminate it quickly. Good pie.
Last season I went to watch Matt Town away at Northwich Victoria.
Oh yeah.
And I was queuing up to get a bovril, and because Mac basically are kind of that big team in the league, so we're playing like Northwest Counties Division 2 or something.
Yeah.
So it's like they were obviously turning up with quite a few fans. So for Northwich Victoria, it was like the big payday. You know, you're taking a lot behind the counter.
Yeah.
And there was this kid who was just a bit of a dick, to be honest with you. And he was just like, we were queuing up, and he was just like really annoying, really rude. And anyway, he kind of looked a bit like me. You know, he was just a sort of bald lad wearing jeans and a top. And because we both had big black coats on our hoods up, so basically the women working behind the counter, they didn't seem to have any pricing structure. They just seemed to sort of make a number up because they were a bit overwhelmed. Like, I don't think they'd ever had such a big queue.
Yeah.
So he ordered, and then I ordered. And then I think she thought I was the dick. I think she got confused. So she charged. So she kept I'd not seen her charge anyone more than £2 for whatever they were getting. Then she charged me £3.50. But I just got to be like, no, I'm just a nice guy who just wants his bovril. I'm really cold. And it was a bit like I felt like I was paying a tax because she thought I was this guy.
Honestly, that's I think that's a Morrissey lyric, isn't it? I'm just a nice guy who wants my bovril.
Sounds like a half man, half biscuit album title. That after our conversation before we started recording.
I'm gonna have to
not necessarily worst pie, but
say that again, Adam.
Oh, it's Simon.
No.
What did you say?
Oh,
Simon?
sorry, Simon. What was that?
Oh, just that I hope that I age better than Morrissey has done.
Yeah.
Wouldn't mind being a few quid behind them in the bank. Not necessarily worst food, but one of the most bizarre, and it has changed. This is going back a good few years. This is probably 10 years plus. At the Bestot Stadium Walsall's ground. I don't know whether I've mentioned this on here before. From memory, I remember queuing up for a burger through the men's toilets. So I don't know whether there was part of the concourse that wasn't open, but you have men, women, and children not only walking to get the food, but also having to come back through the toilets with the food. It was just the most bizarre. No one batted an eyelid to it though. But looking back at it now, and you're thinking, one, how the hell was that? There must have been a section of the concourse that was shut, or what? There was work or something going on. But it was looking back now, and you think, how the hell did they get away with that? Literally, fellas pissing 2 yards away from me, walking back through with what looked to be a decent burger. In fairness, yeah, that's just popped into my mind. So, granted, the food was probably all right, but
so in theory, if you didn't need if you couldn't have a piss, you couldn't have a pie, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. It's good marketing, though, isn't it?
It's a good policy.
Worrying time you walk into a toilet and there's a food hygiene certificate.
Yeah. Who's giving these out?
Please remember to wash your hands. And not brought in a ground, but I distinctly remember this. I had a KFC once before we played Scunthorpe away. I remember we won 4-2. Mustafa Tiriaki scored a brace. I think it was the only time he ever scored for us. And I got food poisoning off this KFC and spent the whole of the second half in the toilets, which were in a much worse state than Walsall's, I must say. Not great toilets at Scunthorpe for anyone who's thinking of visiting. They may have been refurbed, but yeah, that was a bit of a long journey back. That lots of sweat, not good.
I've got a funny story about Scunthorpe. I'll just try and crowbar this one in. It must have been about 2004. We played Scunthorpe away from home, and there was a goose on the pitch, and we couldn't get rid of it. And the stewards weren't for having. I'm sure it was a goose. I'm gonna have to look this up. And
that's a whole episode in itself, isn't it? And there was Jack Russell on the pitch at Stockport away years ago. It was brilliant.
The stewards were didn't know what to do, and then they sort of made a bit of a beeline for it, and then it weren't moving, and then it sort of came back on again, and then our goalkeeper ended up trying, because he had gloves on, obviously goalkeeper, but he was trying to pick it up and do something with it. I'm sure Neil Edwards got rid of a goose on the pitch. I'm gonna have to find that out now. But Scunthorpe, it's food poisoning and geese, basically. That's Scunthorpe, and if take your pick with Scunthorpe. So I think we'll end on there, chaps, and we'll go to the quiz. We've got a few questions, and then we'll wrap it up, because it's I didn't realise how late it was. It's getting. Oh, what's the Man United score, Adam? How's Man United going on?
You know what? I've been so engaged in our conversation, I've not even looked since.
Oh, okay.
So I think we're losing. We're losing 1-0.
Okay.
Okay. Oh,
Deary me.
Still got time. Yeah, still got
half an hour. Half an hour left. Okay, Dec, have you got a few questions? I've got a few questions, but do you want to do yours, or do you want to do mine?
Yeah,
first?
I've got our 5-a-side questions written on the back of, for the audio listeners, the back of an envelope.
I thought you were going to say the back of a Benson and Hedges. Pack it like my passing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so just to go through the rules, if there's anyone sad enough to be playing along with this, if they're wanting to pause the episode at any stage, you never know. So 3 questions. Each one has 5 possible answers. They're in order of, most likely, or, highest earning or whatever. If you give the top answer, you gain 1 point. If you give the 5th, lowest scoring answer, you'd have 5 points. So we're after the more obscure answer, if that makes sense. So you can take a bit of a risk or gamble with things. You could play safe and guarantee yourself a point. Some of them are quite obvious, that they're not quite as obscure as Jimmy, as I don't spend my life on Wikipedia. So hopefully you'll all score points, but it's a bit of a gamble in terms of how many points you want to score. So they've all got a little bit of a theme. I think it was Greg put something out the other day about whether or not football shirts hold or gain value like other things that we buy. I don't know whether that was you, Greg. I think it was.
Yeah.
So I've gone down the football shirt and football manufacturing route. So hopefully you'll all be able to gain some points. Question numero uno. Footballers who sold the most replica shirts with their name on the back in the calendar year of 2022. So I'm after the footballers who sold the most replica shirts with their name on the back in 2022.
Oh.
It's just UK based, is it?
No. So this is global. Sorry, I'll emphasise what leagues I'm on about. So this is global. Yeah.
So what we usually do is you can just chip in with an answer if you think you've got an answer.
And if two people go for the same thing, that's fine tonight.
Doesn't matter.
I'm not going to break up any fights.
So
right.
So I want someone in the top 5.
You want someone in the top 5? You can go. I mean, the top answer for this, I would assume, would be fairly obvious. So you could go for that and kind of guarantee yourself a point, or you could go a little bit riskier and try and gain 2 points for second place, 3 points for third place, and so on down to 5th place. So ideally, you want the 5th best, don't you?
Hard to be confident on just how many millions of people got those Tom Heaton Man United shirts when he came back, isn't it?
There you go.
Yeah, because a lot of people had them from the first time round, so they wouldn't have.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go with a name. I'm gonna say Mbappe.
Okay, Mbappe for
I'll
Greg.
go for Mbappe. Yeah.
Okay. Adam?
I'm going to try an obscure one. I'm going to say Vinicius Jr.
Okay. And Simon?
Sorry?
I'm also going to go down the Real Madrid route, and I'm going to go Benzema.
Okay. Sorry, I'm typing out answers here so I don't make an absolute fool of myself. I'm not the best quiz master in the world. Right. We're going to go, just for added suspense, we're going to go from top to bottom rather than bottom to top. I can confirm that at least one of you has scored points in this round. In first place, selling 1.2 million replica shirts, is Messi. Second place, Ronaldo with 1.05 million replica shirts. In third place, Lewandowski with 970,000 replica shirts. In fourth place, yes, yeah. In fourth place, Mo Salah, 816,000. I think half of those have been sold to the kids in my school. And in fifth place, this is where one of you stored points in case anyone hasn't figured this out, with 790,000 sales, Greg, 5 points, Mbappe.
Oh my word.
So
yeah, that was
Greg 5 points, and Adam and Simon still on for a duck. Okay, second question. So this obviously you could go for something a little bit easier here and try and gain yourself an easy point. Okay. Question 2. The highest valued shirt sponsor of the 2022-2023 season in world football. Okay, so you need to give me the team, if that makes sense. So, for instance, you could say Tranmere and the sponsor would be SR. I don't need both, but just give me the team. So the top 5 highest value shirt sponsors this season.
Okay. This season.
Obviously, you want the one in 5th. Now, 4th, there's 2 teams worth the same amount, and 5th, there's 3 teams worth the same amount, so you've got quite a good chance of getting someone down that end, okay?
So, really, we just need to name a team, don't we, really, that you think would have a high sponsor cost?
Give you a clue, Greg, it's not Rochdale. Go on, Simon.
All right, well, sorry, that was before you gave that clue.
Crown Oil, the last of the big spenders.
There you go, look at that.
Are you impressed I knew that without even looking?
Yeah, pretty much.
So I think when they were pulling all their levers, I think Barcelona's was quite a big one. Is it with Spotify? I think that's quite a lot.
Is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Adam? Not to put you under any pressure.
I'm just going to say Man City.
Okay. So Man City.
How legit is that? Are they all going to
This is it.
And Sir Greg?
Gosh.
He's all flustered now, haven't been told Sir.
Yeah. I'll go for PSG, I think.
Okay, PSG. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Good news, boys. You've all scored points on that round. Okay. Top valued shirt sponsor, Real Madrid Emirates, worth £70 million. In second place, Greg, you've earned yourself another 2 points. PSG with a core, 65 million. Third place, Simon, you've scored 3 points. Barcelona's deal with Spotify, £57.5 million. In joint fourth place was Adam, you've gained 4 points. Manchester City and with Etihad, and Manchester United with TeamView, both 55 million. And then in fifth place, you could have had Arsenal with Emirates, Chelsea with 3, or Liverpool with Standard Charter, all for £47.5 million. So, going into the final question, in third place, Simon, 3 points. Adam, second place with 4 points. And Greg, because Matt's not here, is storming away with it on 7 points. We all know that Matt will be playing along at home somewhere. So.
He will be.
And he'll tweet his results. He'll probably go live on Twitter. Right.
Yeah.
Third and final question. I know you're all riveted by this. Okay. I want you to name the top or most used kit manufacturers for Europe's top 5 leagues. So we're talking La Liga, Premier League, etc. So as in the kit manufacturer. Okay.
So it could be like high tech.
Yes. I'll give you a clue though, Greg. There's no team sponsored by High Tech. Anyway. So I'm after the brand. So top 5.
Okay.
And by that I mean how many clubs they manufacture the kit by.
Right, okay. As a percent, yeah.
Yeah, i.e. so say for instance, I'll give you one that's not on the list. Umbro, for instance, might do 2 teams. So they're not 2. Yeah. Rivet and stuff, I know.
Interesting.
That's one word for it, Greg.
Yeah. Got me brain ticking. Obviously there's the big names and then there's right, I think I'm gonna have a stab in the dark at this. I'm gonna go for a Matt Driver. His phrase, what does he say? Balls to the wall.
Balls to the wall.
I'm going for Puma.
Okay.
Oh, I was thinking Puma.
I was going to go with that.
Well, you can still can.
Yeah, you can all go for it if you want.
Most certainly. Sorry, I've gone well in there. Sorry.
Well, so I'm gonna stay clear of the big 2 because I feel like I need big points. So I'm gonna go for Kappa.
Kappa.
Ooh, that's
okay.
a nice.
That is balls against the wall, isn't it?
I like that.
I'm hoping to do a lot in Italy then.
That's a good shout.
I like it.
Adam, are you sticking with Puma or?
No, give me a second. There's one I'm thinking of, but I just actually know what the card. I'm just going to try and find the logo. 1 second.
Okay.
I think he can Google this. Let him Google this. Yeah.
He draws up the logo game now from late 2008.
No, it's
COVID era lockdown.
It's like, I'm sure it's like a logo where it's like 2 people that are sat the opposite way of each other, but they sort of like joint together. Does that ring any bells for anyone?
That's Kappa.
That's Kappa.
Is that Kappa? Oh,
that's what Simon's just picked. Yeah.
They did some gorgeous kits.
They did some crackers, didn't they?
Yeah. Proper spray on shirts as well from memory. Like they were like before compression shirts were a thing. Kappa were there, weren't they? Steve McNulty will be glad that he didn't have to wear any of those throughout his career. What a man, by the way.
They had a cracking one.
I only know 4.
Weren't they with Tottenham and Portsmouth? I think.
I always remember them with that random French team. Was it Auxerre?
Somewhat, yeah, something like
that.
They
had PlayStation 2 on the front. I always wanted that kit, but then I got fat. So you can't. Some of the I was talking to this with Shell's mum the other day. This particular kit I've got on is a 4XL. It's ridiculous. It's like Herrera. They call it Herrera.
Herrera,
brand. Yeah. It's Italian manufacturers, but the sizes are just all over the fucking show. But you don't get many fat Italians, do you? Or do you?
No, well, you wouldn't know with sizes like that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Adam, are you going with Kappa as well, or?
No, I'm going to go with Jacko.
Jacko. Okay, good shout. That is also balls against the wall, isn't it? Right, we'll go top to bottom. First place, Adidas, 17 clubs they represent. Founded by Adolf Dassler in 1949.
I was getting worried there, Dec.
Interesting. You know the story between him and his brother, don't you? Yeah. We won't go into too much detail there because we're probably losing listeners by the minute. Second place, Nike with 17 also, so actually they would have been joint top. In third place, 3 points for Sir Gregory with Puma, 11 points, obviously founded by Adolf's brother Rudolf in 1948. Now, in fourth place, this is where Adam and Simon, I'd imagine a few streaky bums, boys.
This is intense now.
Macron with 10 teams. So very close there with Kappa. So Macron with 10 teams and bringing it right back to the Wirral. Any guesses as to the kit brand that's founded on the Wirral? Famous for all of their cricket wear. And then they featured in the Milk Cup Trophy final last weekend. Not for Manchester United. Castor.
Interesting.
Who represents 6 top flight sides. I'd quite like those to represent Tranmere, to be honest.
So
that'd be nice, wouldn't
it? Represent less than 6 top flight sides.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
What?
I know they represent West Ham, Burnley, and
Burnley out top flight side, are they?
No, that is true. Yeah. That's true. I'm trying to think who they do represent, but yeah, they didn't make the mix. So, congratulations to our winner, Stores on the Doors, to Greg, who I think that's a new PB, Greg. 10 points.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's something.
That could be an all-time record, that.
That's nosebleed territory. I wish Rochdale could get
Certainly
10
is.
points. Fucking hell. Oh dear.
Christ.
So
I'll let you go.
I've got a quick game, but we can just do 2 of these questions. Are quite straightforward ones. So we'll do 2, and then we'll see how many points people get. What have you. So Matt Driver, who's usually with us on this podcast, came up with an idea to. He said, name 3 footballers, but 2 of them are false footballers. So 2 of them don't exist, and 1 of them is a real footballer. And he said, because there's like a bit of a common theme that I always say. He played for Rochdale, and then Dec. That's what Dec was referencing before. So I'm calling this game Dale.
I've had 3 stints at the club, and I can't kick a ball.
You play a manager with one of them, Dec. So I'm calling this game Dale or No Dale. There you go. Dale or No Dale. So I'm going to give you 3 names. And then you have to guess who you think is the real footballer who played for Rochdale.
Okay.
So we'll go round with that one. So, okay, Dale or No Dale? Kevin Jackson, Matty Entwistle, or Lee Duffy? So I'll go through.
Have you made up one of these, 2 of these names?
2 of these aren't real. One of them has played for Rochdale and is a professional footballer. So that's Kevin Jackson, Matty Entwistle, or Lee Duffy.
I'm going to go for Matty Entwistle.
Okay, I'm going to just make sure I get these written down, or else I will forget. Si, you're going for Matty. Okay. Anybody else willing to?
You want the one that we think is the footballer, yeah?
Yes, yeah. Whoever you think is the real...
Lee Duffy.
Okie dokie.
There's a bit of a twang to his name, but
I'll go Lee Duffy as well.
Yeah.
Adam, are you going for Duffy?
Yeah.
Okie dokie. So, so the real footballer is Lee Duffy. Well done.
Wait.
Yes, well done. So I think Dec and Adam have got that one. I'll just do one more, and then we can tie it all up.
That's an impressive made-up name, that Entwistle.
Yeah, because I live near Entwistle Res, so I just thought I'd chuck that in there.
I wouldn't want to pay to get that on the back of a shirt.
Entwistle.
A few letters there, isn't there? £1.25 a pop. Used to be 75p.
Yeah. Real scope for a misspelling as well, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. Right, so...
Bit of a random story, sorry, about share printing. I
it.
used to idolise, he's now the goalkeeping coach at Liverpool, John Achterberg, who's my all-time childhood hero.
Yeah.
And they could never fit Achterberg on a child's top because it kind of go from beyond armpit to beyond armpit, and they'd never do it. So I ended up with John and number 1 on the back of my shirt.
Oh, man.
Good old John. Anyway.
Good old John. Okay, so last question, and then we'll wrap up the pod. Okay, so same again. Dale or no Dale? 3 players. One of them is a real player. Okay, so Tommy Eastwood, Wayne Collins, Scott Warner. So that's Tommy Eastwood, Wayne Collins, Scott Warner. You can go whichever. You have to pick who you think is the real Dale or Dale or no Dale. Sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like
this podcast cancelled. Noel Edmonds will have you.
Oh, no one's ever said that to me before. Noel Edmonds, he's going to get you. He's coming for you.
Yeah. Mr. Blob is his lawyer.
Oh, good lord! I'm gonna.
I'm going to go with a tedious link here. We had a former Liverpool goalkeeper, Tony Warner, who I fondly remember headbutting Lee Hughes in a friendly tie against Notts County. So I'm going to go with Scott Warner. That was right, wasn't it? Scott Warner. Yeah. Scott Warner. Yeah. Tedious link. Okay. Recognisable surname. There you go.
So, Adam and Simon, what do you reckon? Tommy Entwistle, Wayne Collins, or Scott Warner?
I'm going to say Wayne Collins was the Rochdale player.
Okie dokie. Si, what do you reckon?
Who's that? I'll go for the other one. Tommy, whatever he's called.
Tommy. I nearly said Tommy Cannon. Ironically, used to be a board of director for Rochdale, but there you go. He was in the 80s, honestly.
He nearly sunk that ship.
Well, you couldn't make it up, could you? Like a comedian on the board of directors, like that's honestly, yeah, he truly was.
He didn't know Mike Bassett, did he?
To be fair, we'd probably be winning games with Mike Bassett, so. Oh, okay. So, Dec's gone for Scott Warner, Si's gone for Tommy Eastwood, and Adam, you've gone for Wayne Collins. So, the real Rochdale player is Scott Warner. Dec's got that one right. Dec's got that one right. Yeah, super. I'm just trialing.
Biggest achievement of the week, that, boys. And it's only Wednesday. Things are going to tell you what, by the weekend, we'll be flying. Winning lottery tickets, the works.
Well done, guys.
There won't be a Dale player you can't name.
There won't be, no. And if I win the lottery, I'll be able to pay both of your $5,000 fees for this evening. That'll balance the books, won't it, Greg?
Hey, hang on. Well, don't forget about Jimmy's winnings.
Well, no, Jimmy will have gone and took the company card, which, by the way, we haven't got. Unless you start being sponsored by Revolut, you never know. We could go places. But for now, Jimmy's blown the budget.
Oh, man.
Not in Vegas, on a tub of Pringles on the Ryanair flight he was on getting out there.
About £8 a tub. Oh, super. So we'd like to thank Adam and Simon for joining us for this episode of It's Only a Game. We are on the Sports Social Network, which we're quite happy about. For how long we stay on there, I don't know. But we've managed
Fantastic plug, Greg. Fantastic
plug. And
make sure you listen to all the sponsors.
Yep, speaking of plugs, I will plug this book. We have been given a free edition of this quiz book. It is Football for Brains by Stephen End, and he's kindly passed us this book in the post. What we will do is in our next podcast, we'll pick a few of these questions out as well, Dec.
Absolutely.
Because, and we're not.
And at some point, we'll. After we've
absolutely
rinsed all of the quiz questions, we'll get some kind of competition on Twitter, whether we'll come up with something, or everyone that replies to a tweet or retweets a tweet or something like that, and we'll put everyone's Twitter handles on one of those spinny wheel things and come up with a winner. We'll figure out a way that we can get that out to somebody. Obviously, once we've absolutely used every single Twister. Look out for that competition in 4 years' time. Yeah, maybe version 2, Greg. You could sell them Dale or no Dale. You could.
There you go. Watch yourself, Paddy McGuinness. Bloody hell. So we'd just like to thank Adam and Simon for popping on. Thank you very much, gents, for joining us this evening. Thanks for your time. Super. We'll definitely have you back on if you want to join us again. We'll have you back on in a few months' time. See how Man United are getting on and things like that. So we'd just like to thank the listeners for tuning in. And Jimmy usually says this phrase right at the end, but it's only a game.
Sports Social Podcast Network.